As hopefully Keith is going to be able to connect by phone. Okay, go ahead.
We opened the meeting at approximately 7:06 or 7:07. There was a motion made to approve the minutes from the last meeting. The motion was then seconded. There was no discussion. The motion was carried with 5 in the affirmative, no negative, and 2 abstentions. And it was recorded for the purpose of doing the minutes for this meeting, even though there wasn't none. Linda?
Yep.
Was the vote recorded separately from the electronic recording not being on?
Oh, I recorded it.
Okay. So, and we were publicly broadcasting. So if you could call this case again, then, for the purpose of the recording.
The appeal of Rochelle Montanaro for a variance from section 220-18B3B and section 220-13 Schedule IC of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskuna as it applies to the property at 2067 Morrow Ave, Niskuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to construct a 21-foot diameter above-ground pool on the property. The pool will be located partially within the side yard setbacks. Section 220-18B3B states that the required side and rear yard set dimensions for major accessory structures shall be the same as applies to the principal building. As defined, major accessory structures are detached accessory buildings or other structures in excess of 120 square feet. The pool at 346 square feet is a major accessory structure. Section 220-13 Schedule IC establishes minimums for the R2 zoning district and a side setback requirement as 15 feet. As proposed, the pool will be located 14 feet 6 inches from each side property line. Therefore, a 6-inch side yard setback variance is required for both sides of the pool. 14 notices were mailed out. 2 responses were received, and Laura will read them.
The first letter is from Kelly and Ricky Palatolo at 2071 Morrow Ave. We are Kelly and Ricky Palatolo, and we reside at 2071 Morrow Ave, Niskuna, 12309, and we live next door to Rochelle Montanaro. We have no problem with Rochelle putting in the pool of her choice in her fenced-in backyard, and we support her decision 100% to do so for her and her family. The second letter is from Gus and Maria Plakis from 2077 Morrow Ave. Hello. Sorry, I gotta let this person in. We are Gus and Maria Plakis, and we are residents of Niskuna Town on 2077 Morrow Ave. We live 2 houses up from Miss Montanaro's residence. We built an above-ground pool, too, on our backyard 3 years ago. We have no problem with her putting a pool in her backyard, and we support her idea and decision to do that. Her backyard is more secure for the pool because it is fenced in. Mrs. Montanaro and her family are very polite, nice, and quiet. We consider ourselves lucky to have them in our community. Sincerely, Gus and Maria Plakis.
Thank you. If the applicant could come forward and just state your name and address, your application, the reason for your application, and what efforts may have been made to mitigate the need for a variance. I know we had the applicant on earlier.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes,
Hi,
we
my
can.
name is Rachel Montanaro. I reside at 2067 Morrow Ave. Before I bought the pool, I measured and I thought I was at 15 feet, but obviously I missed 6 inches. I decided to buy the pool in the beginning of the pandemic so my children could have a safe and healthy lifestyle still. I didn't think I was off 6 inches, and then I bought the pool and it's non-refundable. So kind of feel like I'm a little stuck here. I have a 7-foot vinyl fence surrounding my whole property. other neighbors have pools, so I guess I missed 6 inches and didn't think it was a big deal. I
I have a question for
don't really
staff.
know what else yeah.
The application says there's a 7-foot fence. Is there a variance in the books on that 7-foot fence?
I think the inspector decided it was a 6-foot fence.
Okay. As long as there's an explanation. And if the inspector found it to be 6 foot, then it's 6 foot. Any questions from the board?
No. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
I was asking board members if anyone had any questions. Is there anyone?
Mr. Goodman,
Yes.
this is Mr. Lataif. I just have a couple questions. Is the pool already in place?
No.
It's not in place, but you already purchased it, did you say?
I already purchased it, but the pool company will not allow installation without the permit from the town of Niskuna.
Okay,
The pool was actually installed the second week of June, but because of all this, I'm still waiting.
okay. We got a letter from Kelly. Which side of your property is she on?
If you're facing the front of my house, she's on the right side.
So Kelly is on your left side? Can you hear me?
You're muted right now.
Can you hear me?
We can't hear you because your mute is on.
My mute is not on.
It's on me.
No,
Can you hear me now?
I
Yes.
can hear you, yeah.
Right. Kelly's on the right. Kelly, Ricky are on the right side of me if you're facing the front of my house.
Okay, and where's Gus and Maria?
They are next to Kelly and Ricky so 2 doors down on the right side from me.
Okay, and who's the neighbor? Have you talked to the neighbor on your left side? Is there any issue with the neighbor on the left side?
Not at all. They're very friendly with me also.
Okay, so have you talked to them and there's no problem?
Yes, I've talked to them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? Is there anyone in the public who wishes to be heard for or against the application? Hearing none, I would ask if any board member wishes to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve this variance. And it looks like the new addition, the new pool, they're asking for a very minimum side setback. It's only 6 inches from either side. Both neighbors and the other neighbors, they seem to be having no issues with the pool being in there. I don't believe the new addition will cause any problem in the neighborhood.
90%.
And again, this request is not substantial at all, 6 inches. So I make a motion so we approve this variance.
A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just wanted to make a comment. This is Alexis Kim, Deputy Town Attorney, that 6 inches has been held to be de minimis in terms of when you go through the factors for area variance. Obviously, you have to go through all of them, but just I thought that was an important note in the third department.
Thank you, Counselor. I would ask for a vote.
Mr. Lataif,
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Dolman,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Green,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Hulk,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonakowski,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes, for the reasons that were stated, I vote yes. The variance is granted. I want to thank the applicant for taking the time to come tonight. If we could please call the second case.
Appeal of Stacy Gizzi and Brian Pennick for a variance from section 220-25B1A of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskuna as it applies to the property at 16 Troy Place, Niskuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to construct a 6-foot fence in the side yard. Fence section 220-25B1A permits the maximum height for fences located in the front and side yards to be 4 feet. As proposed, a 6-foot high fence is located in the side yard. Therefore, a 2-foot fence height variance is required. 16 notices were mailed out, 0 responses.
I would ask if the applicant could please come forward, state your name and address, the basis of your application, and what efforts were made to minimize the need of a variance.
Yes, my name is Brian Pennick. I reside at 16 Troy Place. And we are asking for a 6-foot fence for the security of our kids. I don't believe that a 4-foot fence will secure them enough. And also we have currently we don't have any fence. We have neighbors next doors with kids, and we just want to keep everybody safe if we do decide to get a pool or get a dog.
Sir, if you started your fence behind the house, you wouldn't need a variance. Is it possible for you to start your fence further back so you wouldn't need a variance?
Well, it's starting. It's not in the front. It is setting back.
You're in you're putting it in the side yard.
Correct.
I'm saying, could you place the fence fully within the backyard and then alleviate the need of a variance and still achieve your goals?
Well, we will lose a lot of our yard. Most of our yard is in the side. We can do that. We will lose a lot of our yard for the kids to play in.
And could you have part of the fence as a 4-foot, and then when you get to the backyard, increase the height to the 6-foot?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Could you start the fence as a 4-foot fence in the side yard, and then when you reach the backyard, increase it to 6 feet? Which would also be allowed under the ordinance?
Then I would have to, if I did that, then I would have to section it off into like 2 separate sections then, correct?
Well, you would have a fencing, and you could have the same style of fence. That part of it would be a 4-foot fence, but once you reach the backyard, it would go up to a 6-foot fence.
Well, that's the problem. I'm worried about the kids being able to climb out of the 4-foot fence.
And how old are your children now?
I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. I believe the 6-year-old would be able to climb out of a 4-foot fence.
You realize as the children get older, the needs change, but the variance stays there forever.
Yes.
And how much of the yard would be lost if you started the fence at the backyard?
Probably about I would say about 40 to 50% of the yard.
Okay. And any other board members have questions?
Yes, I do. On the drawings that we received, it shows that there's a pool in the backyard, but when you spoke if you got a pool. So is there a pool or not?
No, there's no pool. We were planning on putting one in eventually.
So is there anything else on this drawing that's not there currently?
We just purchased a trampoline. So we have a trampoline in the backyard now.
Okay.
This is Richard Green. Good evening, sir. The trampoline, would you be able to place it in the side yard?
Yes.
And you wouldn't have the children using the trampoline when they're unsupervised, correct?
Correct.
This is Mr. Lataif. I got a couple of questions. How wide is the house from the front porch to the back where your patio is?
One second. The distance from the front porch to the back patio?
Yeah, the beginning of your house, not counting the porch and not counting the patio. How wide is it? How wide is your house?
The width of the house, I would say, is about the width of the house is about 35 feet.
35 feet? Okay. So 35 feet. And if you take, how much fence are you putting in from, you're asking to put a fence from the front porch?
Well, behind the front porch.
Right, behind, from the front of the house to the back, is that, how much fence are you asking, you're gonna be putting in?
I believe it'll be about 90 feet going to the back, and then about 25 feet wide.
Okay, so you're looking, on your application, it said about 95 feet all the way, so you would lose 35 feet if you go to the back of the house. You still have a fence for about 60 feet, is that right?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Right. So like Mr. Goodman was saying, if you wanted, you could put 60 feet of the 6-foot fence and you don't need a variance. And for the other 35 feet, you can put the 4-foot fence, or you can just put the fence all the way in the back of your house, then you don't need a variance.
Oh, okay, then all right. Then we would lose a lot of yard. That's the only issue. But if
Do you have do you have any doors on the side of your house that goes to the yard?
no, not on the side, just a front and back door.
So there's no need for any access from the side of the house to the side of the house, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board?
Hi, this is Eric Dahlman. This question is for Laura. So I understand, as I'm looking at this drawing that's been provided by the applicant, there's a section here that's labeled fence 27 feet, 6 feet. Is that the fence that we're considering right now?
Yes.
Yeah, so here,
Okay.
this fence here,
Yeah.
27 feet, that can't be allowed to be 6 feet under our code. And then like, that's what Mr. Lataif was getting at. Like, this is obviously not drawn to scale, because if this
Right.
house, well, actually we would know. So I'm just trying to pull it up on the aerial right now to try and get a better sense of it's here. You know, how that house sits. So,
Yeah, I
so
have,
he's got, so it would be like here and then back to here. And then, you know, the fence would be going over to the corner of this garage. So we're really just talking about this portion of the house right here.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you very much, Laura.
Any other questions from the board?
Richard Green, Mr. Pennick, did you have an opportunity to speak with your neighbors who are on the right side of your house as you stand looking at the front of the house?
I have not spoke to that neighbor. I can speak to him.
Just wondering, for a nice, full, complete record. Thank you.
Other questions from the board?
Just a quick question for Linda. Did we, maybe I missed it. Did we get any letters from anybody?
0 responses.
0, okay.
I did speak to some neighbors in the neighborhood, and they said they agree with having little kids, that they think it'll be a good idea, but
Hey, Laura, quick question, Laura. Did anybody in the neighborhood have any fences, the front of the house?
Any 6-foot variances on Troy Place? Is that where you want me to look?
Yes, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
I will look that up quickly. I think Keith joined, Chairman. I don't know if he's able to talk or not, and we want him to vote on this case. I know that he had joined for the entirety of the case. I will look up if we've granted any fences while you guys continue to discuss.
Yeah. Mr. Penicky, we barely ever approve any fences in the front of the house. When we understand that, you know, you're talking about safety and stuff, it looks like are you willing to consider moving it to the back, or in any way maybe close to the back of the house?
If that's what I have, if that's my last option, then that's what I would do. I mean, how far back do you need it? You need it to start at the absolute back of the house?
That would, if you did that, sir, you wouldn't need a variance.
Okay.
And you still have the backyard.
Okay. I just wanted, you know, a nice yard for the kids to run around, but
We're required to do the minimum necessary under the statute.
Mr. Lateef, I just looked up 2 variances have been granted on Troy Place, both for additions. So there have been no variances granted for 6-foot fences on Troy Place.
So nobody has any fences in the front of the house. Thank you.
Not 6 foot. Yeah.
And
You
this
may
is
have-
a 6-foot fence facing the street, close to the front of the house, with the application the way it is.
That's correct. There haven't been any approvals for 6-foot fences in the front or side yard on Troy Place.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Yep. Are there any other questions from the board? Sir, is there anything you wish to add?
not at the moment. I just thought, you know, maybe it'll give some character to the house. That's pretty much all. Everything else I can add.
Is there anyone in the public who wishes to be heard for or against the application? Hearing none, I would ask if any members wish to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is John Hoke. I will move to disapprove of the variance application. I sympathize with the applicant to the extent that, I don't question his motives or the significance of those motives in attempting to protect his children. The applicant doesn't have the benefit of the fact that we hear these applications on a regular basis, and his concern for his children is not unique to these types of applications, unfortunately. The benefit that can be that's sought by the variance application to protect the applicant's children can still be achieved by just starting the fence later, farther back on his house against the back corner of the property. I appreciate that that won't create the ideal situation that the applicant is seeking, but it does resolve his immediate need to provide some security for his children. The variance, I believe, would create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. There are no 6-foot fence variances that are currently in effect on Troy Place, and our town code evidences a desire to avoid 6-foot fences in the front and side yards. Because of that, I do believe that the variance is also substantial, which would be another reason to deny the variance. Whether there's physical or environmental effects in the neighborhood, that's debatable. I think that there's only aesthetic changes that would be occasioned by the placement of the fence. But again, the town code envisions no 6-foot fences in the front or side yards. And the variance application is self-created in this situation. So balancing those factors, I believe they dictate a denial of the variance application. And I move to deny the application.
Thank you. The motion has been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion for, I second the motion. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I second the motion for denying the variance, and as stated by Mr. Hoke, and again, the applicant was seeking the 6 feet, but he can still put the 4 feet in there, and they still have enough room to have the 6 feet in the backyard. So I second the motion for all the reasons stated by Mr. Hoke.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion amongst the board on the motion? Hearing none, I would ask if the clerk could please call the roll.
Mr. Lattife?
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Ms. McGinnis?
Yes, and I also want to emphasize that the benefit can be achieved with a 4-foot fence, and that would take care of the safety of the children. I'm a parent too. I understand the concerns, but I vote in favor of the motion.
Mr. Dolman?
I vote yes for the reasons stated.
Mr. Green?
I vote yes in favor of the motion to disapprove the application and to deny it. While I'm appreciative of the parents' concerns, I believe be addressed certainly with the 6-foot fence starting at the back and the 4-foot fence in the side yard. So I wish him luck, and I wish his family luck, but I'm constrained to vote yes on the motion for the reasons stated.
Mr. Hoke?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairman Goodman?
I will vote yes for the reasons stated. I'm sympathetic to the desires of the applicant, but I feel that under the standards that we have to look at under the law, that I need to vote yes on this motion. Sir, the application is not granted. I do want to thank you for taking your time this evening to come out, though.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
If we could please call the next case.
The appeal by Ruth and Gary Data for variance from section 220-18B3B and section 220-13 Schedule IC of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskuna as applies to the property at 273 Forest Road, Niskuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to construct a 16-foot by 32-foot in-ground pool on the property. The pool will be located partially within the side yard setback. Section 220-18B3B states that the required side and rear yard dimensions for major accessory structures shall be the same as applies to the principal building. As defined, major accessory structures are detached accessory buildings or other structures in excess of 120 square feet. The pool at 512 square feet is a major accessory structure. Section 220-13, Schedule IC establishes the side setback minimum of 15 feet. As proposed, the pool will be located 6 feet from the side property line. Therefore, a 9-foot side yard setback variance is required. 9 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
Thank you. If the applicant could please come forward, set forth your application, the reasons for it, and any efforts you made to minimize either the need for a variance or the size of the variance.
Hi, my name is Ruth Dater. I live at 273 Taurus Road, Schenectady, New York. And I have an in-ground pool, which is 16 by 32, that was there when we purchased the house. We have patched and replaced as many things as we can through the years. The pool places will no longer do it. They feel that they don't want their name on it because it won't last. They feel within a year or two, the damage will come right back. So I requested a variance because I don't want to dig a new hole. It's $100,000, which I don't have. I also have a garden in my yard, and the pool would be too close to the garden. And my neighbors have already stated, and actually he just showed up here because he couldn't get online, that it would be no issue to them.
Did the pool predate the ordinance? Do we know that was there?
Yes, it was grandfathered in when we moved in.
Okay. And you're keeping the exact same footprint?
Same, yep, exactly. We're just taking out the old rustic steel and putting in new steel walls and a cement bottom.
Okay. Are there questions from the board?
I just wanted to clarify, the only reason that we cited them was we do recognize that the pool that exists on that property is the dimensions that she states, and they are 6. The pool is currently 6 feet from the property line. But when we looked through our building permits, it's not quite the same as what was permitted. So we recognize that the existing pool has been there. It didn't match any of our permits, which is why it was denied.
Well, it's possible the pool has shifted since back then. I don't know. I never saw the original permits. And I had a lot of trouble learning how to measure it myself. But the pool has shifted. I mean, the last 2 times we put liners in, they told us it was shifting. The front step no longer gets water on it. If you want to run the skimmer, you can't have water on your front step, first step. There's so many problems with it. And I just can't afford to spend $100,000 on a brand new pool. So I went to 3 different pool places, and Concord told me they do a lot of these old pools. They can take it out, reshape it, and put it back in the same place without any issues. And I have a completely fenced yard, which was done according to your ordinances at the time, 4 foot in the front, 6 in the back, and the pool is in the back.
Laura, how different is this pool from what your permits say?
It's not too different. It's actually the shape of the pool, as far as we could tell, and the proximity to the lot lines.
Okay. Are there questions from the board? But was the pool installed before the zoning ordinance went into effect? Do you know?
I'll look that up real quick.
I believe the pool permit was 71 when we were looking at the plot image.
And when was the zoning ordinance?
72.
That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you. Are there questions from the board?
Just a quick question for the applicant.
Yes.
You moved to the house, the pool was there, you haven't done anything except keep up with the
I'm sorry,
pool.
I can barely hear you.
Okay, you moved in 1994,
That's correct.
and have you did any changes to the pool from the way it was?
We've added 3 liners to it. We put in new piping. Our first year, the pipes leaked, so we had run new piping. Islanders did that. And other than that, not really anything.
So you
just
haven't
kept
done,
putting liners in and patching it.
okay, so you haven't done anything with the dimension of the pool?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, we haven't.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone in the public who wishes to be heard for or against the application?
I have Chris Longton here. He'd like to be heard.
Okay.
Hello,
If you could state your name and address, sir.
it's Chris Longton. I live at 257 Taurus Road, Schenectady, New York, 12304. Ruth's neighbor.
And if you could just give us your opinion on the application.
I have no objections to them making an improvement to their pool. Actually, it would be great for them to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else in the public who wishes to be heard for or against the application? I would ask if any board member wishes to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. This is Eric Dahlman. I would like to motion that we approve the application. I find that this is not an undesirable change in the neighborhood. In fact, not doing the work and having a rotten old pool is probably an undesirable change in the neighborhood. I don't believe the benefit can be sought. The sought by the applicant can be achieved by other means. This is a substantial variance. I do find that there's no environmental impact. In fact, not doing the work may cause an environmental impact on the neighborhood through leaking water, etc. And also specifically with regards to the fact that this home was purchased with what the owner thought was a permitted and grandfathered pool, makes me believe that this is not a self-created problem. On the balance, then, I move to approve the variance as requested. Yeah.
Thank you. The motion has been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion for the reasons stated.
A motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion among the board on the motion? Hearing none, I would ask if the clerk could call the roll, please.
Mr. Latif,
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Ms. McGinnis,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Dolman,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Green,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Hoke,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonikowski,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes, for the reasons stated. Your application is granted. I appreciate your taking the time this evening to come out and present your case to us.
I thank you very much for hearing my case and for approving, and would love to know what the next step is.
Call the building department tomorrow.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you very much. You all have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You all.
Bye-bye.
Okay, if we could call the next case, please.
The appeal of Tim Kirsch for a variance from section 220-4 and section 220-18A2 of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskuna as it applies to the property at 1579 Regent Street, Niskuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to maintain an 18-foot diameter above ground pool on the property. The pool is located in the front yard. Section 220-4 states for corner lots, each street line shall be considered a front lot line. The property fronts on two streets, Salem Road and Regent Street. Section 220-18A2 states, except otherwise specified in this chapter, accessory structures are not permitted in the front yard of any lot. As constructed, the pool is located in the front yard along Regent Street. Therefore, the location of the pool in the front yard requires a variance. 14 notices were mailed out. We received 4 responses plus a petition against that was signed by 8 residents.
Okay.
Laura?
Yeah, sorry, I know, Tim, that you're about to speak, but can you go on mute? For some reason, we get feedback when other people are talking. And yeah, thanks. Just while I read these quickly. The first letter that I have, I'm just going to share my screen. because it has pictures in it. Oops, wrong screen. Okay. To whom it may concern, I object to the appeal of Mr. Tim Kirsch for a variance to the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskayuna to maintain an above-ground pool in the front yard at his residence at 1579 Regent Street, as detailed in the letter from the Zoning Board of Appeals dated July 2nd, 2020. The following pictures indicate the installation of the old adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is such a beautiful neighborhood of traditional homes, many built in the 1930s and 40s. So, can you guys go on mute? Thank you. This is a beautiful neighborhood of traditional homes, many built in the 1930s and 40s. I live across Salem Road from this house and walk, bike, or drive by it every day. This pool installation goes against the character of the community. Not only does it violate the town ordinance about locating a pool in the front yard, but the garish bright blue with the orange mesh fencing is visually offensive. The Zoning Board of Appeals is requested to deny this appeal. Sincerely, Roger Farrell, 1559 Regent Street. The next letter that I have, Roger then sent another email to us on July 14th as an attachment to the letter that was just read. And it states, we residents of the town of Niskayuna living in the vicinity of 1579 Regent Street submit this petition to the Zoning Board of Appeals concerning the request for a variance to the zoning ordinance for this property at the aforementioned address. The need for a variance results from the installation of an above-ground pool in the front yard at 1579 Regent Street, as detailed by the Zoning Board of Appeals in a to whom it may concern letter dated July 2nd, 2020, which is a violation of sections 220-4 and 220-18A2 of the town zoning ordinance. We ask the board to reject the appeal for a variance at its July 15th, 2020 meeting because its presence in the front yard is detrimental to the character of our neighborhood. We also ask that this petition is made part of the permanent record. And it's signed by Roger Farrell, 1559 Regent Street, Carolyn Hanson, 1551 Valencia Road, William Zwicker, 1574 Regent Street, Beckerman. I'm sorry, I can't read one of the names. 1578 Regent Street, Greg Vacher, 2026 Salem Road, Richard Furst, 1560 Regent Street, Michael Murphy, 1555 Regent Street, and Andrew Darien, 1556 Regent Street. I did receive a note from William Zwicker that he wanted to express the opinion on the variance to allow the above ground pool in the front yard. I hope that he's on this call. I was late getting him the login. That's the email that I got from him. Hopefully he'll be able to speak later. The next letter is from Johnny Willis. We are writing, Town of Niskayuna Zoning Board of Appeals. We are writing in response to your letter of July 2nd, 2020 regarding a request for a variance at 1579 Regent Street. We are adjacent property owners and support Tim Kirsch's request for a zoning variance to allow an above ground 18-foot pool in his front yard at 1579 Regent Street. Please include this email of our approval in your permanent record for your July 15th meeting. Please acknowledge your, from John Willis and Therese McCarty, 2025 Salem Road. And then they added an addendum. We would like to add to our email of July 8th, expressing our approval of the requested variance at 1579 Regent Street. We wish to support our neighbors during the difficult time of the COVID pandemic when children are restricted in their opportunities for summer recreation. In the longer term, replacement of the current orange plastic fencing with shrubbery or upgraded permanent fencing that would obscure the pool, at least partially, from the street would be desirable. In the event that the pool might be moved further towards the back of the property, we would like to note the importance to us of the shrubbery and trees on our mutual property line. The Kirsches are kind and considerate neighbors. They're glad that their son is summer fencing and or shrubbery for the sake of the neighborhood aesthetics in the long term. Please send, and that was his. And I do think that they are online. I saw them, and I think that they do wish to speak when the public is allowed to speak. Okay. The next letter is from Kate Nephew and Chad Orzel to to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We live across the street from 1579 Regent Street at 1570 Regent. We write to express our support for the variance allowing Tim Kirsch to maintain an above-ground pool in the front yard. We believe that the pool will not be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, will not be a detriment to our nearby property, and will not have an adverse effect or impact on the conditions to the neighborhood. Thank you for considering our opinion on this proposed change. And I believe, like I said, I think we have potentially 3 people from the public that wish to speak under privilege of the floor.
Okay. I would ask if the applicant could please come forward, state your name and address, the application that you're proposing to the board, as well as anything you have done to mitigate either the need of a variance or the size of the variance.
Mr. Kirch, can you please hold on just a quick second? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask, just because I lost track, that was a lot of letters. Can it be clarified how many letters were for and how many against?
So we had two emails for and two emails against, but one email was a petition with 8 signatures that were against.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Mr. Kirsch, if you could please come forward now.
Okay, my name is Tim Kirch. I reside at 1579 Regent Street in the town of Niskayuna. So we put up, we got a free pool. With everything going on, we decided to put it in what I consider the side yard. I obviously realize now, due to the code violation, that it's not considered the side yard. But we put it up for the neighborhood kids to come over and be able to swim, seeing how the town pool wasn't open at that point. We have a temporary fence constructed as per the instructions of the code enforcement officer. We've been using it. The kids have been having a good time. And that's pretty much it.
You say it's a temporary structure and that at the end of the season you plan on taking it down?
That is correct.
And what do you plan on doing with it then?
We're gonna throw it away at this point.
Okay. Is there room behind your house or behind your garage for it?
That's negative.
Okay.
If we do that, it would go real close to the property, McCarty property behind us.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
This is Eric Dahlman. I actually have a question, not for the applicant, but I do have a question either for the attorney or for Laura. Is it, or for you, Mr. Chair, is it possible to grant a temporary variance? If the applicant, the reason I ask because I tend to be sympathetic to the applicant's desire for healthy child play during this period that we're in now. But I also live in the neighborhood. I do know that it's not really in keeping with the visual style of the neighborhood. So I'm trying to see if there's a way to split Solomon's baby here. Is it possible to grant a temporary variance? Secondary question, if the permit is denied or the variance is denied, how long does the applicant have before he has to take it down?
I guess I would just ask for a point of clarification. When you say temporary, do you mean that the variance would be limited in terms of years, in terms of, like, what would be your proposed, middle?
Sure. So the applicant said this is a temporary structure, and that's surrounding outdoor play during time of COVID. Is it possible to grant him a variance that would expire, say, on October 1st or on September 1st?
Richard Green speaking. Point of issue here, perhaps for the chairman. Mr. Dolman, I do appreciate the discussion, but I want to be sure that it would be the applicant who would be making this request. Indeed, it's something that can be made.
Thank you for clarifying that. I absolutely, I understand that. Thank you.
I'm not
Just-
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that we can. I also have a concern with a pool right on the front yard, visible very easily from the street, that it becomes what we in law would call an attractive nuisance, because it is so visible that people who shouldn't be in it might take advantage of the fact that it was there because they feel like they can get there without crossing into people's backyards.
Yeah, just as a point of law, I mean, while you can do, so like a variance can be conditioned so that it's temporary, it's usually as applied to use, meaning like, you know, you can have a trailer or like have a storage pod on your property for X duration of time. You know, variances tend to run with the land. And so to make it temporary, I don't think that's feasible, but I mean, Laura, feel free to speak up on that.
I think that's difficult. I could research it quickly, but
We did do it temporary, but it was for a storage unit that was going to be there that was designed to only be there for a temporary period.
Exactly. That's what we contemplated.
Yeah,
because
I think-
the
I think the
timeline that you guys were modifying. So, like in that instance, like you were allowing another renewal, which is a pretty easy and clear
Which was
cut way of it.
technically a different thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Dolman also asked how long the building department would provide for it to be removed if we didn't grant the variance. And that's a town operations question rather than a zoning board question.
So typically we provide and ask a follow-up of 14 days. During COVID, we've been giving people a little bit longer to comply because we do understand that and it's difficult in these times. So you'd probably have between like 14 and 30 days to comply with an order to take the pool down.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman? Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I know the discussion is going on, but usually we just need to vote on what's in front of us. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have to give the applicant an opportunity to give his position, and I still have to open the floor to members of the public.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the board? I would ask if there are members of the public who wish to be heard.
This is Roger Farrell. I wish to make comments on this.
Please, Mr. Farrell, if you could just also give your address.
Okay, I live at 1559 Regent Street. 1579 is across Salem Road from where I live. We're both corner lots. Now, the letter I wrote has been read. Also, the petition that has been gathered. I don't recall anybody in the board asking Mr. Kirch if he had spoke to the neighbors. Apparently, he has spoke to some of them, but he did not speak to me. And two of the names on the petition there, 1574 Regent Street and 1578 Regent Street, I'm pretty sure, and they live directly across the street from 1579. We're not asked about this either. Now, I appreciate, the difficult times we're in with COVID-19. The very simple solution would have been to put the pool in the side yard so it is away from the front of the house. I believe there's enough room to do that. One person raised to me the issue, I think that one of the board members alluded to, about concern with unauthorized people using the pool. The pool is located, I don't know, probably 70, 80 feet from Regent Street. It is highly visible. If you drive down Regent Street, you see this pool. The residents, like all of us, okay, are not home all the time. They go away on weekends. What is to stop some child, a group of children, from just coming in and going in that pool? The fence is, it's some kind of mesh material. It looks like the kind of fence you see around construction sites. I think it would be very easy to pull this fence down and find a way in. So I think it's not only a visual impact that's against the character of the neighborhood, but it's also a safety concern.
Thank you for your time, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard?
This is Therese McCarty. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. If you could please just give your name, what you gave, and your address.
Yes, Therese McCarty. My husband is Johnny Willis. He's here with me. Our address is 2025 Salem Road. The length of the side of our property is adjacent to the Kirch's property. So we sent in the emails first saying that we approved, and then with some second email with some further thoughts and comments. We were hoping that there might be some consideration that could be given regarding the COVID situation this summer, so that the Kirch's son can swim. We are concerned about the possibility of the pool being moved toward our property line. There's not very much room on the side. There might be enough room for it to be entirely in the side yard without impinging on the shrubbery that's on our mutual property line. But we wanted the board to be aware that if the outcome was to say that they needed to move the pool back, that there may or may not be enough room there for it to go back, to be moved back entirely into the side yard without being a problem. And finally, we are sympathetic to the aesthetic and safety concerns if this were to be a permanent structure. It looked to us, and we've not spoken with the Kirches about it, so we don't know their intention, but it looks to us like it's intended to be temporary. And if it were to be permanent, given, we've been assuming, given that the Kirches are considerate neighbors, that if it were permanent, they would do it differently. But so anyway, those are the comments we wanted to make. Thank you.
So, ma'am, are you saying that you wouldn't want that pool there permanently?
I wouldn't. If it were there permanently, my preference would be for there to be some permanent sort of fencing that's sturdier, and maybe, I know it couldn't be a 6-foot fence because of where the pool is, but I think if there were 4-foot picket fencing consistent with the rest of the neighborhood with some shrubbery, I think it could look fine. But again, I don't know what the ordinances are about fencing. I don't know what their thoughts and intentions are, but it would be my preference, if it were permanent in its current position, for it not to look like it currently does.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public who wish to be heard? Laura, did you indicate there were 3 people?
And so I did hear from William Zwicker that he wanted to attend, and unfortunately I got that late and I sent it to him when I could, but his name appears on the petition against. So I again apologize that he may have received the invite very last minute. He doesn't appear to be on the line.
Okay, thank you. I would ask if the applicant has anything he wishes to add.
No, other than what Mr. Dahlman stated as a temporary thing, if we could get just a temporary variance, that would be, for us, that would be good. Like I said before, we are planning on taking the pool down at the end of the season.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, I would ask if anyone wishes to make a motion. Any board member wish to make a motion? Hearing none, I will make a motion. I will make a motion that the variance be denied, although I appreciate the times we are in. It's somewhat unprecedented. I don't think we've ever had an application for a pool in the front yard. The pool is right now a temporary structure. It's quite visible from the street. The fencing around it is not secure and creates an attractive nuisance. This would be a significant variance from what the code would otherwise allow. And based on the comments from the neighbors, it is a change in the environment of the neighborhood to the detriment of the neighborhood and the neighbors around. The one neighbor who did talk about allowing it was also talking about for a temporary period and the fence not being significant. I think we have a duty when we have swimming pools to ensure not only not changing the character of the neighborhood, but the safety of others. And without significant fencing and it being in the front yard along the streetscape, it can create an attractive nuisance. So for that reason, I would make a motion to deny the variance. Is there a second?
I second the motion for the reasons stated, and I also just want to emphasize that I do believe, in addition to the undesirable change in the neighborhood, I am very concerned about the safety aspect of the pool being so visible. And, you know, it would be awful if something happened. So for those reasons, I second the motion.
A motion has been made and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I would ask if the clerk could please call the roll.
Mr. Latif?
Yes, for the motion to deny the pool.
Ms. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Well, I would have had any number of solutions in mind. I only have the legal power to actually vote on the application that's in front of me. So that being said, I vote yes to deny the application.
Mr. Green?
Yes on the motion to deny.
Mr. Hope?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes, for the reasons stated. Sir, the application is denied, but I do want to thank you for taking the time this evening to come out and present it to us.
Okay, so I just have one question. Not that we're going to, but if I were to move it back and so that it is in the backyard, side yard, and we still had that fencing going on, how is that any different?
I'd have to refer you to the building department. There are fencing regulations for pools. But one of the differences is that it's not as visible from the street.
Well, it would be visible because all you would be doing is pushing it back about 12 feet. So
Okay.
it still would be visible.
Sir, I'd have to refer you to the building department. The motion is at this point made and the matter is done before the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If we could call the next case, please.
Appeal of Barbara Bartholomew for a variance from section 220-18B2 of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskiuna as it applies to the property at 210 Taurus Road, Niskiuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to construct an above ground pool on the property The pool will exceed the number of accessory structures allowed on a property. Section 220-18B2 states that there shall not be more than 3 accessory structures on a lot. There are currently 3 accessory structures on the property: a shed, a pavilion, and a fence. As proposed, the pool represents a 4th accessory structure. Therefore, a variance for 1 additional accessory structure is required. 11 notices were sent out, 0 responses.
I would ask if the applicant could please come forward and set forth your application, the reason for the application, and what efforts may have been made to mitigate the need for the application, either the variance or the size of the variance.
Chairman Goodman, this is the application. I worked with the applicant quite a bit this afternoon, but they don't have the technology to join by computer, and they're having a health issue with their voice right now. And so I spoke with them as I could and tried to get as much information out of him as I could. He asked that his application stand with the words that he put in his application, but I do feel like from my conversation with him, I might be able to just offer some clarifying points. And he also sent me pictures of the existing accessory structures, if you guys would like to see them.
Yes, please.
So let me just share my screen quickly. So the pool doesn't, as submitted, it doesn't require any setbacks to the side yard or rear yard. But the property is a little interesting. It has a stream that runs through it here, and it has an accessory structure here, an accessory structure here. This is the neighbor's fence that is not on his yard. And then he has a fence over here that is shared with the neighbor, but it's on his yard. So that would be his 3 accessory structures. He has 1, 2, and then 3. And you can see them in these pictures here.
Oh, he has 2 sheds there?
He says he calls one a shed and one a gazebo. They look like 2 sheds to me. So this is what he calls a shed. Oh no, sorry. This is what he calls the gazebo here. And whoops. Wrong button. I'm just gonna go bigger. So you guys can see that. So this is what we're calling the gazebo, and this fence here with the ornamental side facing out is the one that is technically on his property, although it's on the property line and it delineates between him and the neighbor, and it is conforming. It's in the backyard. So he has this. It's a section of fence. It doesn't go all the way around. Then he has this gazebo here. And then on the other side of the stream, because he sort of has a stream that goes through his 2 sets. So this is the fence that's on his neighbor's property. And then this is what he's labeling as a shed.
Okay.
And so this is, so this picture right here, this is the shed with the fence would be on the left. And
We
right
can't see your pictures. What are you trying to show us?
you can't see the pictures?
Are you trying to show us something?
Yeah, there's a picture on your screen.
Yeah.
Mr. Latife, you don't see the green shed on the screen?
I didn't see it.
If somebody's pinned, Mr. Latife, you have to take off the pin and then, or maybe change your view.
Yeah.
Did you get it?
Okay,
Are you
I see it.
gallery?
I see it.
Yeah, because
Okay.
sometimes I get somebody stuck on pinned, especially if I'm checking to see if somebody is, so right here is where he's proposing to put the pool, like right in front of the shed here. And you can see that again, oops, on this aerial. These are, again, the 2 accessory structures with the 2 fences that are kind of boxing in the backyard. And then the pool would go right in front of the green one here.
And who had the building permit for the one fence that's right on the line? He or the neighbor?
So it's a pretty old fence, but he's calling it his. Partly, I think the building inspector decided because the ornamental side is facing his neighbors. So that would mean that whoever put it, that it would have come from his property.
Unless they put it up the wrong way.
Unless they put it up the wrong way. It's possible.
This is Rick Green, if I may inquire. If the fence were not to be considered an accessory structure, would the applicant then not be having to make this application?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Wouldn't he already he would still have 2, and this would still be the 3rd, right?
Yeah, the reason he gets kicked into the 4th is because that section of fence between him and his neighbor.
But I thought you could have 2 accessories. You can have 3 accessories?
You can have 3. Yep.
And you're required to have fencing if you have a pool.
So this pool actually won't need fencing. It's an above ground, which I talked to him about, and it's one of those ones that you pull up the ladder. So he does have the 6 feet on either side, but he wouldn't be putting a fence in the front of it. It'll just be a above ground pool that you pull the ladder out of.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Are there any members of the public who wish to be heard for or against the application? And this appears to be an oversized lot with a lot of room.
Yes, for Torres, it's definitely on the bigger side.
As a matter of fact, with the tax maps, it looks like it's the double lot.
Yeah, there is that stream that goes through it, so I don't think you could ever put a house on the other side, but I agree with you. It does look like a double lot.
Yeah, the other lots are 50 feet across, and this is 100, except for the corner one next door, which is 107, but most of the lots are 50. Any motions from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Eric Dahlman. I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as requested. I find that this is not an undesirable change in the neighborhood, that the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by other means, that I don't find this to be a substantial request based on both the mitigating factors of the fact that this was a judgment call based on which way the decorative fence was facing, as well as the fact that this is an oversized lot. I find that the environmental impact, I don't find any negative environmental impact. And while this was self-created, this is not determinative. And on the balance, I move that we approve the motion or approve the variance as submitted.
A motion has been made. Is there a second?
Richard Green, I'll second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion among the board members? Hearing none, I would ask if the clerk could please call the roll.
Mr. Lateif,
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Ms. McGinnis,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Dolman,
Yes, for the reasons already stated.
Mr. Green,
Yes, I would just simply say that I do believe the request is substantial, but notwithstanding my thought on that issue, I am still in favor of the motion and vote yes for all the other reasons stated.
Mr. Hoke,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonikowski,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes, for the reasons stated. The motion is granted and the hearing is approved. I think we call the last case, please.
The appeal of Avis Rodriguez and Antonio Amory for a variance from section 220-18B3B and section 220-13 Schedule IC of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskayuna as it applies to the property at 2124 Van Rensselaer Drive, Niskayuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to construct a 15-foot diameter pool, above ground pool on the property. The pool is located partially within the side and rear yard setbacks. Section 220-18B3B states that the required side and rear yard dimensions for major accessory structures shall be the same as applies to the principal building. As defined, the major accessory structures are detached accessory buildings or other structures in excess of 120 square feet. The pool at 176 square feet is a major accessory structure. Section 220-13 Schedule IC establishes a side setback minimum of 15 feet and a rear setback minimum of 20 feet. As proposed, the pool will be located 10 feet from the side property line and 17 feet from the rear property line. Therefore, both a 5-foot side yard setback variance and a 3-foot rear yard setback variance are required. 14 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
I would ask if the applicant come forward and provide their name, address, and the reason for their application, and what efforts were made, if any, to mitigate the need of a variance or the size of the variance.
Hello, this is Avis Rodriguez. I'm calling from 2124 Van Rensselaer Drive, Schenectady, New York. I'm here with my husband, Antonio Amory. We're requesting the variance because of the layout of our backyard. It's on a slope. And for us to locate the pool 5 feet to the left and 3 feet towards to the front, it would cost us $3,000. And right now with COVID-19, my husband is unemployed and we really can't afford to pay for that. Also, the other reason is the wires. It would be right underneath the wires.
So if you move the pool to another location, it would be underneath electrical wires?
Yes. And also it would cost me $3,000 to excavate and level that area.
Any questions from the board?
Hello, Ms. Rodriguez, Rick Green. Mr. Armory, how are you this evening? Did you have a chance to speak with your neighbors?
Yes, we did. We spoke to both neighbors on our left and on our right. We have not spoken to the neighbor in the back. We don't even know him, to be honest with you.
But the two neighbors on the sides, we're very friendly with them. Actually, they want us to put the pool because they want to come over. So they're in agreement with it. They're okay with it.
And with regard to the backyard, could you describe for us the nature and extent of the slope of the backyard? How steep is it to you?
It's about 4 feet, about a 4-foot drop. It's all across the whole block. Runs all across.
And that 4-foot drop is over what length of the backyard?
It's basically, all right. Put it this way: when you come out of my back yard, you only have about 10 feet, basically, of room before it starts inclining. If you could look at if the lady could pull up the map, maybe you could get a better idea of satellite picture.
Well, actually, just for the record, I did a site visit. I just wanted to get your answer on the record, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question for the applicant. Did you look at different sizes before did you guys look at different options?
Well, all right.
To be quite honest, sir, we did not look for a smaller pool. When we purchased the pool, before looking at the requirements, to be honest with you.
Okay, so what you already have the pool?
Yeah, but it's not installed. It's in the garage.
It's not installed. And so what size is this pool you have right now?
15
feet diameter.
15 feet. Okay. So you already purchased it and you can't return it, you said?
Yeah, it's non-refundable.
It's a restocking fee of, I think, 25% if we return it.
Okay. And you looked at the slope area of your backyard, and it will cost a lot of money to be able to move it to that area, you saying?
Yes, approximately $3,000.
Okay. And I'm looking at your backyard on the picture that you guys submitted. From the back, what is behind your house? You said you don't know the neighbor. Do they have a fence there?
They have a fence.
They have a 6 feet fence.
Okay, they have it. So
Yeah.
that's their, okay. And from that fence to your house, how far is that?
It's we need 3 feet from the back, so it's set from the house or from where the pool will be located.
No, from the house.
Oh, from the house, I would have to. I don't have the exact
We don't know the measurements to be exact.
So the reason I'm asking this question because there's any way you can move the pool closer to the house. That's all I'm asking.
It would be,
We wouldn't have a lot of room to walk through the backyard. It would be very, very awkward.
So doesn't sound like you have a lot of room between the house and the fence then.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
Not the fence, the house.
Well, I'm talking. You have the pool is going to be 15 feet, right? The width of the pool.
Yes.
Diameter.
Diameter.
It's a round pool.
Right.
So as it stands right now, where we want to locate the pool, we have a little wiggle room because it's around.
Okay.
So we could angle it, in a certain spot where it'll be perfect. It won't interfere with the power lines because we can't place it underneath the power line.
Okay. So the power line
runs right across the middle of the house.
Okay. So right where you have the 49 feet, that's where the wires are?
Yes, on that side.
All right. Thank you.
I'm looking at, I believe that the main issue is not the $3,000, but that the fact that there are power lines there and it would violate the codes to put the pool underneath power lines is the obvious danger.
Right.
It's both, sir, for us. It's both.
I'm looking at it from the legal aspects that I have to make a decision on. That the power line is the main issue.
I'd like to ask the applicant a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One of the reasons why we have these side lot setback rules is so that there's going to always access for emergency vehicles into the rear area of the houses. So this could ostensibly block one of those channels for emergency vehicle access. So can you tell me, as I'm facing your house, it looks like your proposed pool is on the left of the house. Is that correct?
No, it's on the right.
Okay, so I'm looking at it backwards. Okay, so can you tell me what's going on with your neighbor on the left side? Is there a fence in between you and that neighbor?
The neighbor on the left side, we're good we have a lot of room. It's not a problem with him. It's the one on the right and the one on the back.
So the one to the left, we're 49 feet away from them. The one to the right is the one that we're 10 feet.
All right. Thank you very much. That was exactly the information I was looking for.
I want to clarify the left and the right because Mr. Dolman had asked when you're looking at the house, it would be on the left, and the answer was it's on the right. But when you say it's on the right, is it the right-hand side of the house?
So if you're facing the house, 49 feet is on the left and 10 feet is on the right.
Okay. And the pool would be on which side?
It would be on the right.
Okay. And
then the
pool is more towards the backyard than the front yard, though, correct?
Oh, it's in the backyard. It's in the backyard.
And then the power line runs right across from the back right, diagonally across the yard. So it takes out the whole middle of the yard.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I had the entire, I was looking at this whole picture rotated 90 degrees. Thank you for clarifying.
Any other questions from the board? Do the applicants have anything they wish to add?
That's all.
Anybody in the public wish to be heard for or against the application? Hearing none, I would ask if any board members wish to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the application. I don't believe the benefit can be achieved by other means, given the drop in the backyard and the electrical wires. I don't believe it's an undesirable change in the neighborhood. while the request is somewhat substantial, I think the other conditions outweigh that. I don't believe there'll be adverse physical or environmental effects, and I don't think this is self-created. And for those reasons, I vote that we approve.
A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion for the reasons stated.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion among the board on the motion? Hearing none, I would ask if we could call the roll, please.
Mr. Lateif,
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Ms. McGinnis,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Dolman,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Green,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Hoke,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonikowski,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Chairman Goodman.
Yes, for the reasons stated, and I will add that a definite determinative factor is the electric wire and the inability to put the pool under the electric wire. The application is granted. I want to thank both of you for taking the time this evening to come out and present your case to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And any other business to come before the zoning board this evening?
No, but Laura, I was just asking, when is the next meeting?
The meeting is August 19th, I want to say.
Okay, so we'll stay tuned. We might, as of right now, the executive order is only extended through August, I believe, 8th for remote meetings, but we are working to, we'll wait and see. It doesn't prohibit us from meeting in person. I recently ordered, together with our Lit Tech team, microphones so that each person sitting at the board table would have their own microphone, and we're going to be working on getting sneeze guards in between each board member so that we can, even though we can't maintain social distancing, there'll be barriers. So we'll probably have a mix between a remote, like people who do not feel comfortable attending in person will still be able to participate via, we'll have a speakerphone. And so we'll be in touch. But as of now, I guess we should plan on having that meeting if you feel comfortable in person, unless you hear otherwise.
Okay, thank you.
Alexis, with the August 19th meeting, the public needs to be notified on August 7th.
Yeah, so I will let you know before then, but I would say that what I'm envisioning and what I think the Yasmin is in Supervisor Syed is envisioning is that we are going to, it will have language similar to you can participate remotely. I ordered essentially a giant speakerphone that we would put at the podium that would allow somebody who is participating remotely to speak, in real time to the board. And so the language would include both the link to the Google Meets, but it would also say, or you can attend in person, an either or type situation.
Is there a big screen that's in the building that can be rolled in so that people who are remote, if others are in the room, we'd be able to see the speaker?
So we will not be able to see the speaker. Unfortunately, that's something that we haven't been able to figure out, but they would be able to see us feasibly because it would essentially be like they would be watching the live stream and we would be able to hear them in real time. We wouldn't be able to necessarily see them.
Thank you. Anything else? I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Meeting is adjourned. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to come out this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Everyone, thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you guys all in person.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.